What's up, y'all? It's your man Mike Story, independent, conscious R&B, hip hop, spoken word artist extraordinaire, coming to y'all live from my back porch. Actually, I want to try something a little different today. Normally, I'm talking music or particularly my music. However, I decided today we're gonna change it up a little bit and talk about something a little different. Today, I'm gonna talk about Michael, as in Michael Jackson, the biopic that just came out last Friday. So me and my wife actually went to see it, like an early access showing of it, last Wednesday actually. 'Cause I wanted to catch it a little early before everybody saw it and just say I have my own thoughts and whatnot. And I definitely have thoughts about it. And first, before I get into my thoughts about Michael, and it will be a spoiler-free review for those who have not seen it. But that said, of course, it's hard to say spoiler-free because all of us that grew up in that era pretty much know a lot about what happened in his life, so it's hard to kind of say that. But anyway, so full disclaimer, let me just say this first. I'm a hardcore, diehard Michael Jackson fan, okay? I grew up in the era from pretty much from right before Thriller came out, or right around when Thriller came out. That's kind of when I jumped on board, because I was born when Off the Wall came out, but I was only like 3 years old, so that I wasn't listening to music at that age, so I didn't start listening to music until I was really about 5 years old. But anyway, so what made me a diehard, devoted fan to Michael Jackson is when I saw, of course, the Beat It video. I think that was the first video I actually ever saw of him, was Beat It, and I loved it. It was such a cool video. I love the jacket. That's still my favorite Michael Jackson jacket today, is Beat It. The Beat It jacket. But a lot of people's Thriller. For me, that's like the second or third. But I love the Beat It jacket. I love all the zippers. But anyway, so the Beat It video, of course, the Billie Jean video, and then the Thriller video, of course, all three of the videos are phenomenal. But that doggone Thriller, that just took it to a level just unparalleled. And it's still unparalleled to this day, right? But anyway, but what really took me over the edge, what made me like see him as a god among men, is I was a kid. I was probably about 6 years old or so, 6 or 7. And I remember we was watching the Motown 25 anniversary special, and him and his brothers came on stage and they did their thing, and they were great. They were phenomenal. But then when I remember them walking off stage, and I remember him saying to the audience, yeah, you know how he talk, I love the old songs, but I especially love the new song. Then when he flipped that hat, cocked the hat on his head, and then he did the little pose, little freeze pose that he always does, and then that Billie Jean beat dropped, and I was just like, oh, we getting a Billie Jean performance? And that man broke out and just started killing the performance, and I was just glued to the screen the whole time. I was just like, I couldn't believe what I was watching. And then when when they came to that little bridge, and he did he did that, and he did a little spin, and he cocked back and hit that moonwalk. And then hit another spin or 3 or 4 spins, and then hopped on his tippy toes and stuff. And I was just like, dude, this dude is not human. How did he do that? Because I'm 6 years old, so I'm like just blown away. I'm like, to me, the moonwalk was magic. And then him going into the 3 or 4 spins right after, and then on tippy toes right after that, I just was like, I've never seen nothing like this, and I never will again. Like that, at that point, I was a diehard Michael Jackson fan. So I love the guy, I always have, always been a supporter. And it's just that, and he's my favorite artist of all time, and he always will be. There'll never be another like him. But that said, enough about me waxing poetic about my love for Michael Jackson. Let's get into a quick review of the film. So me and my wife went, and pretty much it's a biopic, but there's obviously there's been a lot of controversies about different things, some legal issues and whatnot. So they originally had like a 3.5, 4 hour cut of the movie, and then they had to break that up because they couldn't use all the footage, or some of the footage, because it had stuff dealing with one of the families, the families that accused him and all of that, and so they had to take that footage out. They couldn't legally use that footage or that family's name or any of that stuff. And then there was a couple other people that didn't want themselves depicted in the movie. So there's that. So it was just a lot of things that was going on with it. So they had to reshoot a lot of stuff and re-edit the film and all of that. So we got what we got. So the question is, what we got, is it good? And I'm just gonna say this: I walked out. The whole time I was in that movie, I just had a big smile on my face. Like I was just like, like Jafar Jackson. He just took it. He didn't just imitate his uncle. A lot of people, when they play a famous person or whatever, they do a really good imitation of him or whatever. But Jafar Jackson became his uncle. Like he channeled his uncle in a way. Sometimes I forgot I was watching Jafar and I thought I was watching Michael back on the screen again. It's just how it was. It was unbelievable. I just couldn't believe it, especially for that to be his first acting role. He did a phenomenal job. Giuliano, I forget Giuliano's last name, the actor that played Child Michael. He was phenomenal. He killed it. And that was his first acting job as well, and I couldn't believe it. He killed it as well. Both of them killed it. Of course, Coleman Domingo killed it as Joe Jackson. Nia Long was great as Catherine Jackson, and everybody else was cool and everything. But I think for me, obviously the music was the biggest thing for me. That's what I wanted to see the most, and I got that, and I loved it. Would I have wanted more? Of course. Of course, you want it all, but you can't get it all. It's a 2-hour movie, so you can't get it all. But I really enjoyed it. I loved it a lot. Thought it was a fantastic film. Is it perfect? It's definitely not perfect. It's not a perfect movie. I did have some issues with it. Here go my dog acting stupid. But anyway, I had some issues with it. Some things that I wish they had spent a little more time on, or some things that weren't there that I wish I would have liked to have seen personally. But I get it, when you're trying to recut a movie based on a bunch of stuff, and then you're having to pick and choose what you can depict and what you can't depict, and then you have legal constraints as to who can be in the movie, who can't. And obviously, I don't think this is a spoiler to say, but Janet's not in the movie at all, because that's been put all over the media at this point, so everybody should know that. That was very jarring and very weird to see all the brothers and see Latoya, but you don't see Janet, and you don't see Reby either. And that was weird. So that's kind of a little odd, but again, they couldn't help that. So and there's a couple other people that are really significant in his life that aren't in the movie at all, and you're like, I grew up in this era, and this person's not there, and I'm like, it just was weird. But for what it was, for what we got, I really enjoyed the movie. I had a fantastic time. I was in my seat lightly singing. I was dancing. I was moving in my seat the whole time. Every time a song came on, it just was beautifully done. My biggest critiques of the film, if I were to say anything that's like I would have liked to see more of, is a little more with his brothers in terms of how they felt about him going into his own, because ultimately the movie is not about the Jacksons. It's called Michael, so it's about Michael. And it's about him basically wanting to develop the inner strength to express his own voice and to separate from his brothers and go out on his own and do his own thing. And the journey of how do I do that, and how do I get out from under my father who wants me to keep doing everything with my brothers? How do I do that? And that essentially is the core story of the movie. And then, of course, how his mother kind of supportive of him and what he wants to do and all of that. So that's kind of the core of it. And then everything else, you get little tidbits of stuff. And there's some things that are addressed a little bit, or they touch on, but they don't go real in-depth with a lot of stuff. The one thing they did kind of go in-depth on, they spent some time, was when he had the Pepsi commercial incident. They did spend some time on that, and I got to know some things that I did not know about that incident. And that actually kind of almost brought me to tears, because I didn't realize how much that impacted him, like physically and mentally. I didn't realize that. I remember in the 80s when that happened, a lot of people were making jokes about it, and you see memes and people joking about it and all that kind of stuff and doing little reenactments, but I didn't realize that situation was as serious as it was. And it kind of it hit me emotionally, just seeing that. I'm like, wow, and that incident led to other things, which I won't get into. You had to see the movie for that, but it did lead to something else to begin transpiring in his life on a repeated basis later, and ultimately led to some stuff, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But it gives you a better understanding of some things about him, and you do understand him more as an artist, his perfectionism, his creativity, his creative process. You do get some of that. I would have liked more of it, definitely, but I get you have time constraints, and they're gonna do a sequel, hopefully, as long as the movie makes enough money, which it will. It'll make the money. It's already made 217 million worldwide in the first weekend. It'll make the money, so we'll get the sequel, and hopefully the sequel will touch on more of the dramatic stuff, the juicy stuff that everybody was missing from this movie. But just keep in mind the movie only covers up till 1988, so that's when Bad at first came out, and then it kind of stops. So obviously all the other stuff, the controversial stuff, didn't start happening until like 1993. So I'm assuming that all that'll be covered in Michael 2 or whatever they're going to call it. So we'll see how that goes and what stuff they decide to put in there and what they don't put in there and all that. So I'm sure part 2 will be a lot more dramatic and like, controversial and that kind of thing. So we'll see how that goes. But this movie was a really fun movie. I really enjoyed it. It's more of a celebration of Michael and his life as an artist, his accomplishments, his rise to stardom. It's more of a celebration of that than it is anything. And there is some biographical stuff in there, but it's more of a celebration. So you go in there, you're going to have a great time. When I left the movie, I had a big smile on my face. My heart was warm. I was happy. I've been thinking about the movie since I saw it last week. It's just been on my mind heavy, and he's been on my mind heavy. And I've been watching a lot of Michael Jackson stuff all week on YouTube and watching little clips of him and clips of people talking about him and just going back and revisiting all his music and just all of that. And so, I definitely recommend the film. Go check it out. It's a great time, especially if you're a fan. You will enjoy it. Is there some things to be desired? Yes. It's not a perfect movie. But is it worth seeing? Absolutely. It is absolutely worth seeing. I loved it. I had a great time, and I can't wait to watch it again. So, yeah, go check it out for sure. It's a great time. Peace out.